I'm pretty excited to go hiking here because it was at the tip of Red Cliff Point, Frog Bay area that I was kind of holed up for a couple days waiting for the wind conditions to be suitable to make it back to La Pointe. And on the way I anchored overnight in Buffalo Bay at the community of Red Cliff. Yeah, so I know this is rugged country, and you can't, where I was anchored at Red Cliff Point, it's very hard to go on land if at all possible, because you have to scale some pretty rocky ledges. So this trail is a mile long, and it'll take me to a beach, and hopefully I can see some of the sites that I was looking at around a year ago. This happens to be the first ever tribal national park, so it's kind of a privilege to be welcome on Indian tribal lands, because this technically is a reservation. And I love how in this area that the Ojibwe language is very much used, and you'll see signs bilingual English and Ojibwe all over in this particular region. For instance, the men's room in Iniwag, the ladies' room, Ikwewag. I learned that on Madeline Island. And I'm kind of leery walking through the woods here, because I know this is bear country. And yeah, so I'm keeping an ear out and an eye out. I heard this little mouse scampering through the leaves, and it scared me, because that was the kind of similar sounds I heard when I encountered a bear on Oak Island last year. So I had to look around in the woods and see what was causing that noise. Okay, so this is very interesting. Ironically, when I started filming this, I ran out of memory in my phone, which is very ironic, because it was a similar scene, but much worse than this, much worse, that I encountered on Oak Island a little over a year ago. And this would be from that same storm. As you see, it ripped through here and toppled all of these trees. It was much worse on Oak Island. I had to scramble over almost a mile of this sort of situation, and I actually filmed it, and it was crazy because for whatever reason my phone on its own decided to delete those files. So I lost a lot of very interesting footage of me climbing over a mile of this straight. I mean, there were 1,000 trees toppled, and that trail was impassable. But not a lot of people knew this because the trail wasn't marked as such. So I left a note on the trailhead that this trail was dangerously impassable. And yeah, Oak Island is maybe a mile from here, 2 miles tops. So this would have been the same storm, very ferocious. I believe that was the same storm that I filmed being at anchor on my sailboat in Indigo Lake. I believe that was the same exact storm that night that toppled all these trees, because this was a big storm. It was all the way across the state, a couple hours deep, meaning you had to endure a lot of storm to eventually reach the end of it. It was 2 hours deep and statewide, and I believe it hit this area first. So, yeah. But the damage on Oak Island, imagine this kind of, but not cedar trees, oak and pine going on for a mile straight all across the trail. And I got lost a few times. I couldn't find the trail. I had to cut through the woods. Thankfully, where I could, thankfully I believe I had a GPS working on my phone. The phone battery hadn't died yet, so I kind of knew where I was. But yeah. Now this is very interesting. This is the sort of rotting log that if you came back at night and broke this open, it would possibly glow in the dark due to bioluminescent bacteria and fungi. I've seen it before, and bet you anything that log is a glow-in-the-dark log. Amazing trail, by the way. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Oak Island, the Oak Island hiking trail is actually pretty boring. It's not like this. This is very dramatic and lush. Oh, okay, so in all fairness, Oak Island was logged. So it's old logging territory. This, on the other hand, is pristine forest, which has never been developed. And yeah, so what you're seeing is thousands of years old, or it hasn't changed much in 1,000 years. In my film script for Justice Bay, this unearths the surprise of the gold coins that had been being hunted for, but unfortunately on the other side you have a crushed tent and the ill-fated explorer and treasure hunter. You see this? You find mounds like this all the time on Oak Island, and I was thinking about this for a long time, and I think it's what eventually, the eventual formation is what's left of one of those events. But that's just speculation on my part. I found no other convenient explanation for those landmarks. Wow. At times on Oak Island last summer, the debris was so thick that I would have to traverse a tree trunk sometimes at these heights, because you see how those branches are so thick on the other end? That's what I was climbing around at times. And so I'd have to get on the tree and shimmy down the trunk to get to the next best passage. And I mean, this went on for at least, imagine having to cross through 3/4 of a mile or a mile of this. And I simply had faith that this wouldn't go on. And so before long, I was just committed to completing the journey and just hoping that at some point it would end, but it didn't. I mean, it was bad. So I wonder who would be nibbling on a pine cone around here. Could it possibly be a red squirrel or a mouse? I don't really know. I'll have to do some research on that. Something just made a loud sound over there. Crashing sound. Don't think it was a dead tree limb. have a little trouble hearing because mosquitoes are buzzing in my ear. But it was a big branch cracking. The islands were closed for overnight camping. On the islands last summer, it was 2020, and that probably was a good thing because you'd certainly be killed if you were camping amongst an area that got flattened like this. You'd be very lucky to survive. And we found the beach. I'm excited. I get a view of Oak Island from here. That's Oak Island. I can still see the impressions where the trees were flattened